In this video, I'm going to go over my test questions for properties of triangles. Hi, I'm Tammy. I do math for coffee. Let's start doing some test questions. Classify each triangle by its angles and sides. All right, so the first thing you want to do is look at this angle because it's pretty big. That's an obtuse angle inside of a triangle, which means you have an obtuse triangle. So your choices here are either going to be A or C. Now you just need to figure out if you have a scalene or an isosceles. And for that, you look at the sides. I have two sides that are the same, one that's different. That makes it isosceles. Correct answer, it's this one. Okay, number 2. We're doing the same thing. Let's classify. I'm going to cancel this one right off. Scalene, isosceles, those two things, it shouldn't go together. Scalene means you have no equal sides, and isosceles means you have two equal sides. So that doesn't even make any sense. So now we're down to 3 choices. Let's look inside the triangle. All of the angles are smaller than 90 degrees. So that means it is an acute triangle. It is not equilateral. It's going to be one of these two. And I look at the side lengths. This is why I know it's not equilateral. All the angles are different, so all the sides are going to be different. And that means it's not isosceles. It's got to be the scalene choice, C. 60 degrees means that this thing is not a right triangle. There are no 90-degree angles inside this triangle. So they're all acute. And look at the sides. They're all the same length. So I'm going with equilateral. Number 4, there's a right angle. So this is a right triangle something. So it's either right isosceles or right scalene. So we look at the side lengths. Do you see 2 that are the same? Nope. So it's scalene. Correct answer is D. Now it's not multiple choice anymore. We get to do some math. Find the measure of each angle indicated. Well, the one they don't know is this one. So the triangle Sum Theorem is all the angles inside of a triangle add up to 180. So let's subtract this 90 degrees from 180 first, and that leaves us with 90. Now we have the 60. Let's subtract that, and we get 30, and we are done. Solve for x. A little bit of algebra here. There's your x. All the angles inside here have to add up to 180, so let's set this up. 2x plus 23 plus the 135 has to equal 180. Let's combine like terms, which is in this case just adding the numbers. We have 2x plus 158 equals 180. Subtract 158 from 180. 2x equals 22. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 11. That's it. We're done. Number 7, find the measure of angle A. Well, this is a little different. You're supposed to find the actual size of angle A, but we've got these x's going on in here. So we're going to do this one like we just did the last one. Let's write up an equation where we add all the angles together, set them equal to 180. We're going to combine like terms. I have 2 x's over there, so that's 2x. Put all the numbers together, that's 204. Add those, that equals 180. Now we're going to subtract 204 from both sides, and we end up with 2x equals negative 24, and x equals negative 12. You probably wouldn't stop here because it's negative, but if that were positive, you might, and that's a real common mistake. But they really want us to find angle A, so I've got to substitute that back in. These x's, I got to change them to negative 12s. Let's just make sure this all adds up, though. I've got 3 angles. It does add up to 180, so we're good. So you want this one right here, 53 degrees, is your solution. Find the measure of each angle indicated. The one we don't know is way over here. Now, if I knew this angle, I would just subtract from 180, and what was left over would be the answer. But I don't know this angle. You got to go over to this triangle. They give me enough information to at least be able to start. Those two together are 140, which means this guy right here needs to be 40 degrees. 140 plus 40 is 180. So this triangle, I know all the angles. Now, we got this going on here. These 3 angles, the 40, the 75, and this blank one, add up to 180 because they're making a straight line. So we got to do that math. and that's 65. Now you can take 82 and 65 and subtract it from 180, and we're going to have our answer. 33 degrees. Number 9. The exterior angle theorem says that these two angles of a triangle that are farthest away from this outside angle right here in this corner, this angle will add up to be these two together. So x plus 40 equals 114. Subtract 40 from both sides, and we're going to get x equals 74. Now, I'm not moving on to the next question. I want to do this one again because sometimes you might forget the exterior angle theorem. And if you do, this is how you would do this problem. You would have to find this angle, and you'll do that by subtracting the 114 from 180, and that gives you 66. Now you're going to add your x, your 66, and your 40 and set it equal to 180. You get x plus 106 equals 180. Subtract. We get x equals 74. Moving on to number 10. Now we need to solve for x. And this one you have to use the exterior angle theorem. I know that these two added together are going to equal this. So 6x plus 4 plus 70 is going to equal negative 4 plus 19x. The exterior angle theorem is really a wonderful tool in geometry. It's not hard to memorize either. All right, let's solve. Let's combine those numbers. We get 6x plus 74 equals negative 4 plus 19x. Subtract 19x from both sides, and you end up with negative 13x plus 74 equals negative 4. You could have subtracted the 6x from both sides. There's more than one way to solve an equation when there's variables on both sides. You should all end up in the same place. I subtracted 74, and now I have negative 13x equals negative 78. When I divide negative 78 by negative 13, I get x equals 6, and that's all I was asked to do, solve for x, and I did. Number 11. Now we need to find the actual size of that exterior angle. So 9x minus 2 plus 44. Put those together and set that equal to the 15x minus 6. Do the numbers again. 9x plus 42 equals 15x minus 6. I don't know why I'm in the mood to just subtract the biggest one, so I end up working with negatives. I usually don't, but okay. I think I just wanted to keep my x over here on this side. Let's subtract the 42 from both sides. I did that in my head. So I now have negative 6x equals negative 48. Divide by negative 6, and we end up with x equal to 8. Now this is where you are in danger of quitting. You're totally right. No mistakes have been made. We have x equals 8. That has to go in here. And that angle is 114 degrees. Put a circle around it, and we're out of here. Find the value of x. Well, look, all the angles are marked congruent. So that means all the sides are congruent. That means if this one is 6, then this side equals 6. X equals 6, and you are done. Now find the value of x. If you know the properties of an isosceles, that was an equilateral triangle on the last one. This is isosceles. If the sides are the same, the base angles will be the same. So that means that x equals 49. Not a lot of work to do. Number 14. We have congruent angles right here. Even though this is tipped over, this is an isosceles triangle. That means I have two congruent sides, and it's going to be the sides across from those base angles. So these two things are equal to each other. Let's set that up and solve it. That's a mistake, isn't it? What is that supposed to be? I'm going to be lazy and not fix it. If you can tell me the right answer in the comments, you are going to get extra credit. Measure of angle 2 is x plus 57. Here's angle 2. And so this is isosceles. So that means that this is x plus 57 and this is x plus 57. I have the top angle. I know that all three angles have to add up to 180. So let's do that. I have 2 of those x plus 57 angles plus the 84 is going to equal 180. Let's do distributive property. We get 2x plus 114 plus 84 equals 180. Add those two together. We get 2x plus 198 equals 180. 2x equals negative 18. Now I'm double checking all my math. I don't know, I must have been sleeping that other question. And we get 2x equals negative 18, so x equals negative 9. And if you really don't trust my math, go ahead and plug that negative 9 in for the x, add everything back up, and it better equal 180. State if the 3 numbers can be the measures of the sides of a triangle. This is where we're talking about the triangle inequality theorem. The sum of any 2 sides must be larger than the third side. So how we check this, I take the 10 plus the 8, and that has to be bigger than 14. That is true. Then we check the next combination. 10 plus 14, is that bigger than 8? That is true. And is 8 plus 14 bigger than 10? That is true. All 3 of these have to be true, and then you can make a triangle. Yes, these can be the sides of a triangle. Now, this is the trickier version of this kind of a question. 2 sides of a triangle have the following measures. Find the range of possible measures for the third side. Well, there's a third side here. You just don't know what it is. And it can be bigger or smaller, but it has to be in a range of numbers so that what we just did on the last question would work. A range means you're going to have a smaller number and a larger number, and x is going to be between those two, but not actually equal to them. So the way you do that is the first number is going to be these 2 numbers subtracted. So that's going to be 5. And this one's going to be adding them together, and that will be 17. So there's many answers. Any number between 5 and 17 will make triangles with 11 and 6. Number 18, find the missing side of the triangle. Round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. Notice that this is a right triangle. Pythagorean Theorem. I like to write it backwards. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. As we continue working on these problems, you're going to see why. So we got to figure out which number is the c. The c is the hypotenuse, which is always across from the right angle. It's always the biggest number. So in this case, 15 squared equals 9 squared plus x squared. Now we do some math. Subtract 81 from 225. And then we take the square root of both sides. And 144 is a perfect square, so x equals 12. If you were in algebra class, there would be also the negative 12, but you're not. This is geometry, so we just use the positives. This is the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. Is this a right triangle? Show your work to support your answer. So you don't see any angles marked. And even though this looks like a right angle down here, if it's not marked, you can't assume that. So you need to use the Pythagorean theorem to check it. So here's the Pythagorean theorem. And the question then is, what would be your C? Well, the C, if this were a right triangle, the C would be 15 because it's the largest one. So we're going to compare these. Is 15 squared equal to 8 squared plus 9 squared? Let's do the math. And we end up with 225 and 145. Those are not equal, so the answer is no. We're going to do this one again. This one, the answer will be yes, but I want you to see how it turns out. The C is going to be 10. Now here they didn't even give you a diagram. That's what makes this one tricky. You're just supposed to take the side lengths and figure it out. Take the biggest one, that'll be your C. And then the 2 other ones would be the legs, the A and the B. Do the math. Yes. That really wasn't very tricky. All right, and we take this one step farther, and we can use the Pythagorean theorem to actually tell us whether or not a triangle is acute, right, or obtuse. All right, if c squared, this is why I write my Pythagorean theorem backwards, because it makes this kind of a question so much easier. If c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, it is an obtuse triangle. If c squared equals a squared plus b squared, it is a right triangle. And if c squared is smaller than a squared plus b squared, is an acute. If you write the c first, the greater than symbol goes with obtuse, and the less than symbol goes with acute, which makes so much more sense to my brain, which is why I write my Pythagorean theorem backwards. C is always going to be your largest number, so let's check and see what's going on here. 13 is going to be the C. So we have 13 squared versus 12 squared plus 5 squared, and we're just going to see how these things relate to each other. And they are equal, so this is a right triangle. Okay, this one won't be a right triangle, but we don't know what it's going to be. Here's a C, and let's do the math. And we end up with 225 and 277. C squared is smaller than a squared plus b squared, so that means we have an acute triangle. I hope you like those, because those are one of my favorites. I love those. Okay, now on to something completely different. Order the angles in each triangle from smallest to largest. We're going to go angles, smallest to largest. And the only thing they're telling me are the sides. Well, my side lengths are 16, 18, and 21. The angles that are opposite those, 16. The opposite angle is T. The opposite angle to 18 is, and the opposite angle to 21 is S. Now, because I put my sides in order from smallest to largest, and then I wrote their opposite angles from smallest to largest, this is your answer. So that's how you do that. The smallest angle will be across from the smallest side. The largest angle will be across from the largest side. Order the sides of each triangle from shortest to longest. Okay, well, instead of writing it all out, let's just look at it. The smallest angle is 50 degrees. The side opposite is CA or AC, however it's written. That's your shortest side. So your answer has to have AC as the first thing listed. Well, C has BC first, so that's no good, and so does D. So our answer is either A or B. I usually skip over the middle and go for the largest, so I'd skip the 60 and go to the 70. So the longest side is BA. That means the last thing in my list needs to be BA. Well, here's AB, that's the same thing. And this one says BC. That's no good. Our answer is A. Okay, now we're going to order the sides of each triangle from shortest to longest. And you probably can do this without a diagram, but this one, I need to write it out. I need to have something to help me visualize this. So one of the angles is going to be 29. That's my Q. Then I have R is 50. I know it doesn't matter where I put them in. And then S is 101. I know that's not drawn to scale. It doesn't even look like it's bigger than 90, but it doesn't matter because you're just doing this to just kind of get an idea of which sides are opposite of which angles. Shortest to longest means the shortest is going to be across from the 29. That's SR or RS, however they have it written. RS, RS, RS. So B's out. Let's look at the longest side. That's going to be across from the 101. That's QR, so that has to be the last one. So this is not true. And this is not true. So the answer is A. All right, perimeter. You do perimeter and area in middle school. I've included it with my unit on my geometry class on YouTube just because people forget. It's, if you take geometry when you're in 10th grade and you haven't done perimeter and area since 6th or 7th grade, that's a lot of years. So here's perimeter. You're going to add up all the sides. This is not a side. This is a height. We'll deal with that when we do area. So for right now, we're just going to add the 9, the 12, and the 6. And that is 27 meters. It's just a distance around like a fence. Now we're going to do the area of a triangle. If the height is on the outside of the triangle, the height is always making a perpendicular with the base. So the height is 4. That's how tall it is. I know it's standing weird right now, but the way this is written, this is the height that they're giving us. So area formula, 1/2 base times height. I know the 1/2 is the 1/2. The base and the height are 4.7 and 4. We do the math. We're going to end up with 9.4 miles squared. That's the unit. You're not squaring anything. This is not a math operator. This is just an abbreviation for square miles. Find the missing measurement, round your answer to the nearest tenth. All right, we have an area problem. The thing we don't know is the height. We start with the area formula. Let's plug in what we know. We know that the area is given to us as 24.2 square centimeters. So I put in the 24.2. I put in the 1/2. I use h for the height because that's the thing I don't know. Now what's the base? It's the 9.3. Remember, the height and the base are perpendicular. Now we just do a little math here. We get 24.2 equal to 4.65 is what you get when you take 1/2 times 9.3. Divide both sides by 4.65. And we get h equals 5.2. And I didn't put units on it, but it's centimeters. If you're following my class on YouTube, when the next class is ready, I'm going to put a link to it right here. Otherwise, you're going to see something YouTube is picking for you. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.